Okay, moving on. Um, Looking at chapter 9, the second lecture, we carry on with measurement um, and questionnaire design, and really we're focusing on scaling techniques. If you look at these different types of scaling techniques, there are two broad categories: comparative scales and non-comparative scales. And there are a number of types of scales underneath each one. So we're going to deal with most of those within the context of this lecture. So we're not going to deal with the Q sort and other procedures. We're just going to deal with the other ones contained in this diagram. And there we're looking at the attributes of the different aspects like mildness, lather, in other words, foam, the price, the fragrance. So you can see that different segments allocated different importance to different aspects. Okay, going back to our general classification, we've dealt with comparative scales. We're now moving on to non-comparative scales, and there are two basic types, the continuous rating scale and the itemized rating scales. So looking at the non-comparative scaling techniques, remember respondents evaluate only one object at a time, and they can consist of continuous as well as itemized rating scales, and we're going to consider all of these below as we carry on. So first of all, a continuous rating scale, bearing in mind that varies from one extreme of the criterion variable to another. So if you look at that, you can see how would you rate Sears as a department store, from probably the worst to probably the best. There are also different ways of doing it, but basically they're trying to achieve the same end. There are obviously computer ways of doing this as well. I came across an interesting study. I went to a conference some years back, it was about 3 or 4 years back, and there was a guy from Poland, and he tried to do this on a continuous scale slightly differently. It really had to do with your hesitation. So for example, if you want to rate, say, let's say Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's, I'm not sure why I'm talking about food all the time, maybe it's because it's near supper time, and you say, look, I like the Big Mac burger, for example, and the scale would be how do you, or let's rephrase it, how do you rate the Big Mac, good or bad? And you think, well, if there are only two answers, it doesn't really add much value. But the way he worked it, he also took into account the way the extent to which you hesitated. So if you really like a Big Mac, you'd say good, yes, definitely, as opposed to, oh well, let me think about this, I suppose it's good. And that hesitation allowed him to develop a continuous scale just digitally. So it's quite interesting, particularly if you think about people who aren't literate necessarily, and you try and get their perceptions of different aspects of different consumer project. They might not be literate, but certainly they are an important element as far as marketers go. In terms of itemized rating scales, there are different ones, obviously Likert, semantic differential, and staple scales. Likert we've pretty much dealt with in quite a lot of detail, and you can see it's fairly similar to the one we've just dealt with in regard to Sears, except that it is allocated numbers. Now importantly, and I think I did highlight it earlier on, you can see that strongly agree needs to be 5 and strongly disagree needs to be 1. That's just because of the way the computer codes it. So that's an important thing to think about when you're coding your Likert scales. Semantic differential, similar, except that you would link it from one dimension to another. So you'd say Sears is powerful or weak, unreliable or reliable, modern or old-fashioned, and generally the negative adjective appears on the left, but as long as it's consistent with your computer program, that's the most important thing. As long as it's consistent and you can score it appropriately. You could, as I say at the bottom there, score from a -3 to +3 or a 1 to 7 scale. Some more examples of that. I won't go through all of that, but certainly it gives you a good sense of some of the differential scales that can be used. A staple scale is a unipolar rating scale, normally with 10 categories and usually presented vertically, and it can be also analyzed the same way as a semantic differential scale. Okay, there we go. Let me show you how it's done. There you can see it varies from +5 to -5. Alright, well that's all that we've got to say on those scaling techniques. The next session is really just for BEC 324E. We're going to be looking at the questionnaire and not BEC 321. Alright, thank you.